First Contact's fatal mistake. Senior observer Kilnar stood at the viewport of the Archean Empire's most advanced survey vessel, his four eyes fixed on the blue-white planet spinning lazily below. His iridescent scales rippled with barely contained disdain as he reviewed the preliminary reports on his neural interface. Primitive nuclear fission technology, limited space presence, internal conflicts over resources, and no unified planetary government. He dictated to his personal log. The species calls themselves humans. They've barely managed to establish a few orbital habitats and a small colony on their red neighbor planet. Recommendation: classify as development stage 2.3, suitable for standard resource acquisition protocols. The decision seemed perfectly logical. After all, the Archean Empire had successfully harvested resources from dozens of similarly developed worlds. The process was practically routine. Demonstrate overwhelming technological superiority, establish resource quotas, and maintain order through minimal military presence. The humans would have no choice but to comply. They hadn't even developed basic gravitic manipulation technology yet. What Kilnar failed to notice, however, was the unusual pattern of technological advancement on the planet below. While most species develop their technologies in a predictable linear progression, humanity's progress looked more like a chaotic scatterplot, with breakthrough advances in seemingly random fields alongside puzzling technological gaffes. Fleet Commander Vextrol received the assessment with characteristic Archean efficiency. Authorization granted for Standard Extraction Protocol 7B. She transmitted back. Proceed with resource demonstration at designated coordinates. The demonstration site selected was a relatively isolated mining facility in a region humans called Australia. The plan was simple: deploy a small extraction team, demonstrate their technological superiority by effortlessly mining the year's worth of human production in mere hours, and then present their demands. The humans would recognize the futility of resistance, and another world would join the Empire's resource networks. They couldn't have been more wrong. The first sign that something was amiss came when the extraction team's advanced sensors failed to detect the primitive but effective mesh of satellites and sensors humans had dubbed the Backyard Observatory Network. Thousands of amateur astronomers and space enthusiasts had created an early warning system that nobody had expected from a primitive civilization. By the time the Archean extraction vessels began their descent through the atmosphere, humans had already evacuated the mining facility. More importantly, they had prepared a welcome party that would become legendary in the annals of First Contact incidents. The extraction team's landing zone erupted in chaos as their gravitic sensors went haywire. The humans had taken industrial vibration dampeners, technology the Archeans had dismissed as primitive, and reversed their frequency to create a localized gravity disruption field. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't advanced, but it was effectively scrambling the Archean landing systems. Impossible, muttered Chief Technician Zereval as she tried to compensate. They couldn't possibly understand gravitic principles well enough to. Her words were cut short as the first modified mining charges detonated. The humans hadn't just evacuated. They'd turned the entire facility into a trap. Every piece of mining equipment, every industrial tool, had been repurposed into an improvised weapon. Drilling lasers, redesigned to penetrate the Archean ship's shield frequencies. Excavation explosives, recalibrated to create electromagnetic pulses that played havoc with Archean systems. Fall back, ordered team leader Krulliver as another explosion rocked their flagship. This is not within acceptable parameters for Protocol 7B. But the humans weren't done. As the Archean ships struggled to retreat, they found themselves caught in something the humans had apparently cobbled together from mining electromagnets and orbital debris. A makeshift web that their sensors hadn't even recognized as technology. Back on the survey vessel, Kilnar watched in horror as the extraction team's signals went dark one by one. His scales had shifted to the pale yellow of extreme distress as he frantically composed an emergency update to Fleet Command. Initial assessment critically flawed, he transmitted. Human technological development pattern unprecedented. They appear capable of rapidly adapting existing technology for combat applications. Standard protocols ineffective. Requesting immediate. The transmission cut off as his sensors detected multiple launches from Earth's surface. Humans had modified their primitive chemical rockets, turning them into surprisingly effective delivery systems for electromagnetic pulse weapons. The survey vessel's shields, calibrated to stop energy weapons and kinetic impacts, proved embarrassingly vulnerable to the jury-rigged devices. As Kellner's ship began losing power, his neural interface captured one final transmission from the surface. It was a simple text message, broadcast on all frequencies in perfect Arxian script. "Thanks for the tech demo. We'll be in touch." The message's implications were staggering. The humans hadn't just defeated the extraction team. They'd used the encounter to analyze Arxian technology in action. Every weapon fired, every shield activated, every system deployed had given them precious data about Arxian capabilities. In the following days, as the Arxian Empire scrambled to understand what had gone wrong, they discovered something even more alarming. Humans worldwide were already sharing theories about the alien technology they'd observed. Citizen scientists were proposing countermeasures. Engineers were sketching out adaptations of their primitive technology to defend against future incursions. The Empire had inadvertently awakened something they'd never encountered before. A species that didn't just adapt to survive, but one that thrived on technological challenges, that saw advanced alien technology not as an overwhelming threat, but as an exciting puzzle to be solved. Fleet Commander Vextrol received Kellner's final report with unprecedented concern. For the first time in her long career, she added a personal note to her assessment. "Recommend immediate reclassification of Earth. This is not a resource acquisition target. This is a potential extinction-level threat to the Empire's technological superiority." She couldn't have known it then, but her warning would prove to be dramatically understated. The Empire hadn't just failed to subjugate Earth. They had given humanity exactly what it needed to leap centuries ahead in technological development. And humans, true to their nature, were already preparing to return the favor. The galaxy was about to learn a harsh lesson. Never mistake technological gaps for weakness, and never, ever give humans a reason to get creative with their technology. The awakening giant, the Arxian High Council chamber, normally a model of decorum and protocol, had devolved into chaos. Counselor after counselor rose to speak, their scales flickering through colors of panic, rage, and disbelief. At the center of the storm stood Fleet Commander Vextrol, her scales maintaining a steady deep blue of grim determination. The humans have done what? First Speaker Melthar's scales had turned an unprecedented shade of white. They've begun mass-producing hybrid technology, Vextrol reported, her voice steady despite the gravity of her words. They've taken our salvaged components and combined them with their existing systems in ways our engineers are still struggling to comprehend. The holographic display at the chamber's center showed footage that seemed to defy logic. Human satellites, previously dismissed as primitive, now sported modified Arxian shields. Their crude chemical rockets had been augmented with salvaged gravitic systems. Most disturbing of all, they'd somehow adapted their primitive computer systems to interface with Arxian technology, creating hybrid control systems that operated with shocking efficiency. But it's been barely 3 months since the extraction attempt, protested Science Minister Keldor. No species could reverse engineer our technology that quickly. It's mathematically impossible. With respect, Minister, Vextrol replied, the humans aren't reverse engineering our technology. At least, not in the way we understand the process. They're experimenting, iterating. They try combinations we'd never consider because we know they shouldn't work. And somehow, they'd make them work anyway. The display shifted to show a human mining vessel that had been converted into what they called a defense platform. It was a horrifying combination of primitive human industrial equipment and salvaged Arxian technology. Where Arxian engineers would have spent years carefully calculating optimal configurations, the humans had apparently just kept trying different combinations until something worked. Their approach to technology is fundamentally different from ours, Vextrol continued. We advance through careful research, precise calculations, and methodical testing. They tinker, they make mistakes, learn from them, and share their findings globally. Millions of them are working on these problems simultaneously, approaching them from angles we'd never consider. The chamber fell silent as the display showed a particularly disturbing example. A human orbital facility, previously used for manufacturing communications satellites, had been modified to produce what they called hybrid defense drones. The drones combined Arxian shield technology with human AI systems, creating defenders that were unpredictable yet eerily effective. But surely their lack of unified planetary governance will hamper their efforts, another counselor offered hopefully. Their nations will compete rather than cooperate. Vextrol's scales flickered briefly to the deep green of dark amusement. That's actually made the situation worse. Their nations are competing to develop the most effective hybrid technologies. They're sharing some findings while racing to make unique breakthroughs. The pace of their advancement is unprecedented. The display showed scenes from around Earth, massive industrial complexes being retooled, scientific facilities working around the clock, and perhaps most worryingly, ordinary humans contributing to the effort through something they called open-source development. They turned it into a game, Vextrol explained, her scales showing hints of reluctant admiration. Their civilians are treating it like a global puzzle to be solved. They have millions of their people working on these problems not because they're ordered to, but because they want to. First speaker Melthar's scales had gradually shifted to the deep purple of strategic contemplation. Your recommendations, Commander. We must assume that conventional military action is no longer viable, Vextrol stated flatly. The humans have already demonstrated their ability to adapt and counter our standard tactics. More importantly, any engagement would only provide them with more examples of our technology to study and adapt. The display showed predictive models of potential military encounters. In every scenario, even if the Empire achieved initial victories, the humans learned and adapted at an alarming rate. Each defeat seemed to only make them more determined, more creative, and more dangerous. There's something else, Vextrol added, her scales shifting to a shade that indicated deep concern. We've detected unusual energy signatures from their lunar colony. Our analysts believe they're testing some form of hybrid propulsion system. If they succeed, she didn't need to finish the thought. If humans develop viable interstellar capability by combining their reckless innovation with Arxian technology, there would be no containing them. They're not just defending themselves, Vextrol concluded. They're preparing to expand. And they're doing it in ways our predictive models can't anticipate because they're not following any known technological progression path. The chamber erupted in concern, murmuring as the implications became clear. The Empire had not merely failed to subjugate Earth, they had inadvertently created a new kind of threat, a species that combined technological sophistication with unpredictable innovation, that treated setbacks as challenges rather than defeats, and that seemed to actually enjoy the process of solving seemingly impossible problems. One final note, Vextrol added, her scales now showing the deep red of urgent warning. We've intercepted transmissions suggesting that some humans are already discussing the possibility of returning the favor by sharing hybrid technology with other developing worlds we've subjected to resource extraction protocols. The chamber fell into stunned silence. The implications were staggering. If humans began uplifting other worlds, teaching them their unorthodox approaches to technology. First speaker Melthar's scales had settled into the gray of grim resignation. Prepare a full military withdrawal from all sectors within potential human reach, he ordered, and initialize Emergency Protocol Omega-7. From this moment forward, Earth is classified as a terminus-level threat. May the first ones help us all if we've truly awakened a giant. As the council chamber emptied, Vextrol remained, watching the display cycle through images of human innovation. She couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy was about to change in ways none of them could predict. The humans weren't just defending themselves, they were rewriting the rules of technological development itself. And they were just getting started. The Innovation War. Admiral Sarah Chen of the newly formed Earth Defense Force stood before the holographic display in the Lunar Command Center, watching as another Archean battle group emerged from hyperspace. Unlike the tense atmosphere that had accompanied the first such arrivals months ago, the command center now hummed with focused excitement. "Time to show them what Innovation Group 7 has been working on," she said, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Deploy the butterfly network. Across cislunar space, thousands of seemingly dormant satellites suddenly activated. The Archeans had dismissed them as debris, their sensors showing only simple metallic structures. They couldn't detect the hybrid cores inside, combining Earth's quantum computing experiments with salvaged Archean power systems. The butterfly network came alive, its nodes communicating through methods that defied standard detection. Modulated gravitational waves, quantum entanglement enhanced by primitive but effective human programming, and what one engineer had dubbed weaponized chaos theory. On the Archean flagship, Supreme Commander Vaxlor watched in growing horror as his ship's systems began behaving erratically. Weapons powered down at random. Navigation computers displayed impossible readings. Even the artificial gravity flickered unpredictably. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Their technology shouldn't be capable of penetrating our cyber defenses." The answer, had he known it, would have horrified him even more. The humans weren't trying to break through Archean cyber defenses. They were changing the underlying rules of how those systems operated. The butterfly network didn't hack in the traditional sense. It introduced controlled chaos into any complex system within its range. "Launch the primary attack wave," Chen ordered, her voice calm despite the historical significance of the moment. This would be the first time humanity actively struck back at an Archean force rather than simply defending. What emerged from Earth's orbital dockyards would haunt Archean military strategists for generations to come. The humans had taken their primitive nuclear fusion experiments and combined them with Archean gravitic technology to create what they called star heart drives. The resulting ships shouldn't have been possible according to any reasonable engineering principles. But humanity had long since abandoned reasonable engineering principles in favor of what worked. The Earth ships accelerated in patterns that made Archean tactical computers crash trying to predict their movements. They didn't maintain formation so much as swarm, each ship acting independently while somehow maintaining collective effectiveness. Their weapons were an impossible hybrid of human ingenuity and Archean technology. Railguns enhanced with gravitic accelerators, nuclear pumped lasers that ignored conventional shield frequencies, and worst of all, something the humans called probability torpedoes. Evasive action. Vaxlor ordered as the first wave of probability torpedoes approached. But there was no evading weapons that used quantum uncertainty principles to exist in multiple potential flight paths simultaneously until impact. The battle that followed would be studied by military academies across the galaxy for centuries. The Archean battle group, despite its superior technology and centuries of tactical doctrine, found itself overwhelmed by human innovations that bordered on technological heresy. Earth ships took hits that should have destroyed them, only to reroute power through jury-rigged systems that violated half a dozen engineering principles. When Archean forces adapted to one human tactic, they found themselves facing three new ones. The humans had turned warfare into a laboratory for testing new ideas, treating each engagement as an experiment in creative problem-solving. In Lunar Command, Admiral Chen watched as the Archean formation began to break apart. "They're still trying to find patterns in our attack strategies," she noted. "They haven't figured out that we're intentionally avoiding patterns." The butterfly network continued its work, spreading chaos through Archean systems. Human ships pressed their advantage, using tactics that ranged from brilliant to seemingly insane. One commander used his ship's damaged gravitic drive to create a localized time dilation field, giving his gunners what effectively amounted to extra time to aim. Another vessel, its main weapons disabled, converted its entire power grid into an electromagnetic pulse generator, sacrificing itself to disable 3 Arxian cruisers. The crew escaped in pods that they had modified with salvaged Arxian tech, their sacrifice turning into yet another victory. Signal from the Arxian flagship, reported Communications Officer Rodriguez. They're requesting. Pause. I need to confirm this translation. They're requesting that we stop doing impossible things. A ripple of laughter went through the command center. Humanity had spent its entire history doing impossible things. Now they were just doing them in space. Send our standard response, Chen ordered. The message was deceptively simple. Everything is impossible until someone does it. As the Arxian battle group retreated in disarray, leaving behind a debris field of valuable technology for humans to study and adapt, Chen turned to her tactical display. The Butterfly network was already analyzing the battle data, its quantum processors identifying new possibilities for hybrid technologies. Status report from Innovation Groups 3 through 6, her aide announced. The reverse-engineered teleporters are ready for testing. The quantum phase shields are showing promising results, and the gravity wave communication network is now stable enough for interplanetary use. Chen nodded, but her mind was already on the next phase. The Arxians weren't just fighting a war against Earth's military. They were trying to stop the unstoppable force of human innovation itself. Every defeat they inflicted just gave humanity more technology to study. Every victory they achieved just showed humans new possibilities to explore. Begin Phase 2 preparations, she ordered. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity isn't just defending Earth anymore. We're going to change everything. As her orders went out, research facilities across Earth and its colonies continued their work. Millions of humans, from professional scientists to amateur inventors, were contributing to what had become the greatest technological revolution in human history. They weren't just adapting alien technology. They were reinventing it, improving it, and combining it in ways its original creators had never imagined. The Innovation War, as historians would later call it, wasn't just a conflict between species. It was a clash between 2 fundamentally different approaches to technology and progress, and humanity's chaotic, creative, impossible approach was winning. Ripples across the stars. The Galactic Council's emergency session was unprecedented in both its urgency and attendance. Representatives from over 300 spacefaring civilizations gathered to discuss what many were now calling the human problem. The massive chamber hummed with nervous energy as species from across known space debated humanity's rapid rise. Ambassador Nixis of the Centaurian Collective took the central podium, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns that conveyed deep concern. The humans have achieved in months what took most of our civilization's centuries. They've not only repelled the Arxian Empire, but have begun actively dismantling their influence across 3 sectors. The chamber's holographic display showed the latest intelligence, human ships appearing seemingly at random throughout Arxian space, releasing what they called freedom packages to subjugated worlds. These packages contained hybrid technology and, more dangerously, human ideas about innovation and resistance. The Arxians report that 17 of their resource extraction colonies have already declared independence, Nixis continued. Using modified human technology, these worlds have developed defensive capabilities that make traditional enforcement impossible. The Veldari representative, a being of pure energy contained within a mechanical shell, pulsed with agitation. But how are they doing this? The humans were barely able to reach their own moon using chemical rockets less than a century ago. That, came a new voice, is precisely why they're so effective. Dr. Elena Martinez, Earth's first representative to the Galactic Council, walked to the center of the chamber. Unlike the other representatives with their advanced environmental suits and neural interfaces, she carried only a simple tablet computer modified with alien tech. Humanity never developed technology in the ordered, logical way that most species do, Martinez explained. We didn't wait to perfect one technology before trying another. We didn't follow careful progression paths. We grabbed every idea that might work and tried it, failed, learned, and tried again. The display shifted to show examples of human innovation throughout history. From the first crude stone tools to modern hybrid spacecraft, humanity's technological development looked less like a steady progression and more like an explosion in all directions simultaneously. But what truly sets us apart, Martinez continued, is how we share knowledge. When one human makes a breakthrough, we don't keep it secret or restrict it to a privileged few. We publish it, debate it, improve it together. What you're seeing now isn't just Earth's military or scientific elite. It's billions of humans all contributing to our advancement in their own ways. The chamber erupted in concerned murmurs as the display showed scenes from Earth, garage inventors testing hybrid technologies, students improving alien algorithms, ordinary citizens proposing novel applications for salvage tech. The humans had turned galactic technology into a massive open-source project. The Arxians made a fundamental mistake, Martinez explained. They assumed that because we hadn't developed certain technologies, we couldn't understand them. But understanding and developing are different things. Once we saw advanced technology in action, once we knew what was possible, she smiled. Well, humans have always been good at turning impossible into challenging, and then into routine. A representative from the hive minds of Rigel leaned forward, its compound eyes reflecting the holographic display. But surely there must be limits to this approach. You cannot simply ignore the natural progression of technological development. Martinez's laugh echoed through the chamber. Natural progression. Nature doesn't progress in neat, ordered steps. It tries everything, keeps what works, learns from what doesn't. That's the human approach too. We don't care if something should be impossible according to conventional wisdom. We try it anyway. The display showed the latest human innovation, ships that combine multiple technologies in ways that made traditional engineers wince. Quantum computers augmented with biological components, weapons that exploited physics loopholes most species had deemed too unstable to use, and power systems that somehow worked better because they shouldn't work at all. But the most important thing you need to understand, Martinez continued, her voice growing serious, is that we're not going to stop. Earth has voted unanimously to support any civilization that wants to break free from empire or exploitation. We're sharing our methods, our technologies, and most importantly, our way of thinking. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't just defeating the Arxian Empire. They were fundamentally changing how less developed civilizations viewed their place in the galaxy. The careful hierarchy of technological advancement that had maintained order for millennia was crumbling. We've already received requests for assistance from 23 developing civilizations, Martinez announced. We're establishing what we call innovation centers on any world that wants one. Places where species can learn not just how to use advanced technology, but how to improve it, adapt it, make it their own. The Veldari representative pulsed rapidly. This could destabilize the entire galaxy. You're giving advanced technology to species that aren't ready for it. Martinez's expression hardened. Ready? Who decides what makes a species ready? The same empires that have been exploiting them. We believe every species has the right to develop at their own pace in their own way. We're just making sure they have the choice. As the council descended into heated debate, Martinez quietly returned to her seat. The display continued showing humanity's influence spreading across the galaxy like ripples in a pond. Each ripple carried not just technology, but ideas. Ideas about innovation, about cooperation, about questioning established limits. The galaxy was changing, and for the first time in recorded history, the change wasn't coming from the top down. It was spreading from world to world, species to species, driven by the simple human belief that impossible was just another word for hasn't been done yet. And in research centers, laboratories, and makeshift workshops across hundreds of worlds, beings of all species were beginning to ask the very dangerous question, Why not try it and see what happens? A new galactic order. 5 years after humanity's first demonstration of hybrid technology, the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. The once mighty Arxian Empire had fractured into dozens of independent systems, its former colonies now thriving centers of technological innovation. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, once a place of rigid hierarchy and careful protocol, had become a forum for sharing ideas across species and civilizations. Supreme Leader Vex Troll, now the last leader of what remained of the Arxian Empire, stood before the council for what everyone knew would be a historic announcement. Her scales, once proudly displaying the deep purple of imperial authority, now shifted through subtle shades of acceptance. The Arxian Empire, she began, her voice carrying across the silent chamber, hereby announces its complete dissolution. Our remaining systems will reorganize as independent entities, free to pursue their own paths of development. She paused, her scales flickering briefly with what might have been amusement. We have learned, perhaps too late, that true strength lies not in controlling innovation, but in embracing it. Dr. Elena Martinez, now Earth's senior ambassador, watched from her seat as ripples of reaction spread through the assembled representatives. 5 years ago, such an announcement would have thrown the galaxy into chaos. Now it was simply the formal recognition of what everyone already knew. The old order was gone. The humans, Vex Troll continued, taught us something our empire spent millennia trying to suppress. They showed us that progress doesn't come from careful control and measured steps. It comes from freedom. The freedom to experiment, to fail, to learn, and to share those learnings with others. The chamber's holographic display showed scenes from across the galaxy. On former Arxian worlds, hybrid technology centers buzzed with activity as multiple species worked together, combining their unique perspectives to solve problems in ways none of them could have managed alone. The human approach to innovation had proved infectious, spreading from world to world like a benevolent virus. Our latest census, reported Ambassador Nixis, her crystalline form glowing with excitement, shows over 500 innovation centers operating across known space. More significantly, we're seeing unprecedented cooperation between species. The humans' open-source approach has broken down barriers we thought were fundamental. The display shifted to show one of the most dramatic examples, a space station orbiting a neutron star, built through the combined efforts of 12 different species. It housed a research facility that would have been impossible under the old order, where advanced species carefully guarded their technological secrets. But perhaps most remarkable, Nixis continued, is what we're calling the innovation cascade. Each breakthrough leads to multiple others, as different species apply their unique perspectives to new possibilities. The pace of advancement has become literally incalculable. Martinez smiled, remembering the early days when the Council had feared this very outcome. They had worried that unrestricted technological advancement would lead to chaos and destruction. Instead, it had led to a kind of cooperation the galaxy had never seen before. We've confirmed reports of 15 new faster-than-light travel methods developed in the past year alone, announced the Velderi representative, its energy form pulsing with what had to be excitement. Each one works on completely different principles. Some of them seem to violate what we thought were universal laws of physics. That's because we stopped treating laws as barriers and started seeing them as challenges, Martinez explained, rising to address the Council. Humanity's greatest contribution wasn't any specific technology. It was the idea that nothing is impossible until you've tried it every way you can think of, and then tried a few more ways just to be sure. The display showed perhaps the most stunning example of this new approach, the first successful dimensional phase shift, achieved by a team that combined human intuition, Arxian precision, Velderi energy manipulation, and Centaurian crystalline technology. They had accomplished something that each species alone had deemed impossible. Which brings us to our proposal, Martinez continued. Earth and its allies would like to formalize this new reality. We propose transforming the Galactic Council from a governing body into something we call an innovation exchange. a place where all species, regardless of their current technological level, can share ideas, seek assistance, and contribute to our collective advancement. The chamber hummed with discussion as the implications became clear. This wasn't just a new political arrangement, it was a fundamental shift in how galactic civilization would develop. Under the old system, Martinez explained, advanced species help developing ones by giving them technology. Under our proposed system, every species helps every other species by sharing their unique perspectives. Because as we've learned, sometimes the most revolutionary ideas come from those who don't know something is supposed to be impossible. One by one, representatives stood to signal their support. Even former Arxian worlds, once the guardians of technological orthodoxy, embraced the new paradigm. They had seen firsthand how their own technology had evolved more in 5 years of open cooperation than in centuries of careful control. Let the record show, Nixus announced, her crystalline form blazing with light, that on this day we formally adopt the Innovation Exchange Charter. All species, all worlds, united not by force or fear, but by our shared desire to explore, to create, and to achieve the impossible. As the chamber erupted in celebration, Martinez's tablet pinged with a message from Earth. The first human-led expedition to another galaxy was ready to launch. The ships would carry not just explorers, but the most powerful force humanity had discovered. The idea that with enough creativity, determination, and cooperation, nothing was truly impossible. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Never again would any species dare to dismiss another as primitive or unworthy, because as humanity had proved, today's impossibility was just tomorrow's exciting challenge. And somewhere out there, someone was always ready to try something that couldn't be done and succeed.